Okay, folks, happy Thursday. So we got a couple things here on the painting table, and we have what's left of the Packwagen SDKFZ 234/4, and it's nearly done. We've done most of the black lining. It looks a little devoid of things on it, mainly because it's a rodent kit, and they give you a lot of these extra things to go on it, like a fire extinguisher and like jerry cans and things like that. But the instructions for, and I have three of them. I have all of them except the Puma. The Puma that I have is actually a die-cast model that I got for like $1 from somebody from an estate sale. But the other ones I have, let me show you. Let me show you the 234/3. It's also a rodent model. And the other two that I haven't completed them because of the grenade screens. We're not doing them until the very end. But definitely this is actually the most useful of the quad of them. This is the first one I built, the 234/1, and if you can see that there's a shovel here, there's a fire extinguisher, another shovel, another fire extinguisher, a couple jerry cans here, a couple jerry. This is how the standard version was, and if you look at all the instructions, it tells you to put the same stuff in every location. So I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to decide to do the rest of them, so I'm going to leave all of those details off. Now, some people may like this, but there's actually no little notches or holes or anything for any of this equipment that goes. And if you look at multiple pictures, there's not a complete consistency on where all these things go. So I am going to add them to the rest of these. I just haven't decided where I'm going to. Like both of these, I don't want to make them both the same on purpose. So even though they are the same vehicle, this is the 20 millimeter armed is the barrel removed? No, the barrel does not move, and it doesn't need to move either. However, there's a little notch in here where this barrel actually comes, the turret comes off. I'll show you. Well, okay, that's not how it's supposed to come off. the thing, we'll go ahead and take it out here. Here's the little notches. And, there's all kinds this is what I wanted to show you. There's like the little chairs and stuff where the people sit in. So this will be pulled off of it when we go to finish it, and we'll paint this independently from this. There's literally no details inside, and there doesn't need to be. You wouldn't be able to see them. But this is the armored car. They have a lot of similar parts, but I built this one as recommended, but I don't want to put all these things in the same location on all these vehicles. So this one gets first pick since it was the first one that I did, and this one will be slightly different from that one. Notice even though they're the same kit, there's a difference in the plastic. Actually, this was the only one that was in this it's slightly sandy plastic color. But this is oh look, something else is falling off. What's going on here? I'm going to go ahead and glue these things on, but I got these four, plus I have the Puma that is completed, and I completed it because it was basically one piece. You can get this thing on eBay. I'm not exactly sure who makes it, but it's relatively inexpensive, like $8 or something like that. So we have the full set. This is the full set, and then we just have an extra one of this kind. So, yeah. So, and if you notice, this one's a little lighter colored on purpose. This is I actually didn't know this until in the last couple of years, that there was a really late war Dunkelgelb color that was a lot more beigeish. So this is done on purpose in that color because this is a very late vehicle. I don't think they started coming out until like around Battle of the Bulge. It's really a 1945 type vehicle. They didn't make that very many of them anyways. But let's glue these things. Let's put these guys back. I just wanted to show you that where we're at on it. But they do look kind of devoid of detail. You know, they don't have any these little trinkets on here. So we're going to go back and add those things to it. I don't like getting bogged down in the minutia of, I don't know what I'm going to do. So, you know, when in doubt, punt. Keep moving. So, on the list for today is going to be painting the hand-painted numbers on the, well, actually, on the list today is putting this son of a bitch back together, which I hadn't planned on, and painting the numbers on the Panthers, the big Panzer layer type numbers, similar in style of my Britannia Panther. Red numerals with white outlines. These two will also be that way. Except, what the hell happened? I can't see anything without glasses on. Oh, the Panzerführer fell down. That's what you get for being a Nazi, asshole. Except they're over the tracks. So, ever eat a pan-fried peanut butter and jelly sandwich? No. No, I'm not opposed to eating fried things, but sometimes things that are fried are too much over the top. For instance, you've ever had a Monte Cristo? The concept is good. It's just too much going in, you know. I don't like super sweet and fatty. So like, I pretty much have a cast iron stomach, but I can't do a donut. A donut just, I can do one. I just get immediate heartburn. So I can either deal with sugar or fat, but not them together. Not them together. And I really don't like sugar. I get irate with sugar. I'm short-tempered with sugar. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and glue this guy down, and then we'll put this thing away. But there's little grenade screens that go on top of them, and I haven't put those in yet because I think I'm gonna have to paint them and then attach them at a later date because they are super delicate. Why, did you have to eat one of those on a dare or something? That sounds like something that, what is it, Scotland? They deep fry all kinds of stuff, like Mars bars or something like that. They're always talking, oh, deep fried Scottish food, you know? Like, that's not what people think about when they think about Scottish food. I had a friend of mine that said, yeah, Scottish food was created on a dare. I'll pass on the food. I'll just have scotch. Thank you. Okay, how the hell do we maneuver this guy? And that's the problem with Rodin. They're the opposite of Plastic Soldier Company. Plastic Soldier Company has machine guns and stuff made so robustly that it's not likely to break. This MG42 is probably done in scale and is really fine detailed. So you gotta be real careful with some of this stuff. All right, I think we need to, it's like that, but I gotta feed it up from underneath. Yeah, that's what it is. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and put this glue here on this front end, and then we will move it. Not really glue, it's the softening agent. Now, we'll set that down. Okay, and now we can put this thing away whenever we'll go. We'll probably paint these in the next batch that we do the Germans. Because I think when I'm done with these guys, well, when I'm done with the stuff on the table, I'm not going to bring more German shit onto the table. we're going to stop and do the Soviets or the Germans or the Americans or the Brits or somebody next. So, yeah, knocking them out. Convention's not this weekend, but the following weekend, so who knows if I come back with something. It's not likely because I do things in a scale that nobody has stuff for. You don't like the taste of sugar or salt. Mr. Luff, welcome. No, they're really good drunk or high. Well, I wouldn't know about high. But I will tell you this, if I had to do drugs, I would do coke. Because I don't need to do something that makes me lazy and hungry. And munchy. I'm a natural. I've said it before. If I'm going to do drugs, I want something I can throw my car on my back and then run home with it on my back and actually get home faster than I would if I was driving. You know, or like paint every model I have in one evening. Like, that's like productive. You know, it may not look very good. I might get the jitters, you know, but... Get her done! I was reading some kind of comment and they called it Peruvian marching powder or something like that. I'm like, oh my God, I laughed. Oh man. Okay, so we're going to set this guy off to the side and let's look at the Panthers. And I've got a picture. Your friend smokes crack. Time to get a new friend. You're too accepting. Oh man. Every time somebody says smoke crack, I haven't seen this in a long time. I think of, who is it? Is it Chris Rock when he plays that crackhead in that movie? No, I'd like to keep my teeth, thank you. Oh man. Okay, so what we're looking at is numbers that are painted over the tracks on the side. All right, I'm going to go down here to the bottom. .321's an okay. Oh, I like these that were down here. I like these numbers that were down here. So we're going to pick two of them. We're going to do 232 and 244. We're going to pick those two numbers because there's already examples of them here. And they're both going to go on this. So one of them is the Commander's Oh, this has a Commander in it. So I might actually pick a ending in a 1. I think not 200. That's the Commander of the second company. That's too high of a importance. I mean, oh, that's the tank of so and so. Like, man, let's not go there. Let's not go there. We don't have the models. That's this one here. So let's do the non as important guy. Okay. So this one's going to be, we're going to make this one 244. So I'll probably do like 241 or something like that for this one. Those 4s look kind of cool. All right. So we're going to set this one off to the side. We're going to get something we can work on. We're going to use mainly lighter colors. It is a red numerals with white outlines. So we're going to paint the whole thing starting off in light gray. And I'm going to mix my own because I'm obstinate like that. I could have just pulled a light gray out of it, but I'm a lot more comfortable just mixing every color. I've always done it, so. You get some white right there. We're going to need a little bit of black. And a paintbrush we're going to trust our life to. So, it might be this one, but this one has had some abuse done to it. Still has some color in there. So let's get some hand sanitizer. and reactivate this stuff. All these little clumps will come out of there. It'll keep the bristles from being right next to each other and getting a good line. And this is just a liner. Definitely a liner for doing this kind of stuff. Almost done. A little bit more. You have a friend that smokes crack. I wish I had a friend that had a car lift. I think that'd be handy. But that didn't smoke crack. I think it'd be really cool to know somebody that you could use their car lift. And that was into cars and wasn't a dickhead. I know that sometimes that's too much to ask. Okay, I need a little bit of what? Oh, this is just enough. I was going to say water. This is perfect. Let's neutralize this. Let's make sure we don't have any. This doesn't work really well if you leave that hand sanitizer on there. Okay. Let's change this to live chat. Okay. All right, and we're going to kind of lightly outline where all these numbers are. Now, they're pretty big numbers. We're going to use the canvas of all of the 4 tracks here as the same area of this. So we're going to have the center 4 in the center of it, which means it's going to overlap different things. So that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start with putting the center 4 down. Okay? So let's put a little bit of white here. With a little bit of black. And we're going to thin this a lot because we're just going to basically do the equivalent of sketching. We're basically going to sketch this number out, and then we will make, you don't want to start on one number, make it look beautiful, and then do the next one. By the time you do the third one, I'm like, these 2 numbers look great, but I didn't leave myself enough space for the other one. So, besides historical, do you paint any other genres like science fiction or fantasy? No. No, I don't. I love historicals because it forces me to learn. We had a model meeting 2 days ago, right? And what I really like about the model meeting is the folks that go to it are really big into history. So they'll do this show and tell thing, and they'll work on some model, and they'll tell you about this is a model and how I did it, and it represents a vehicle or a plane of something unit. It tells you a little bit of background information. And like one guy brought a plane I didn't know anything about. It's called a C-46, and I think it's a beautiful aircraft. It's a World War II cargo type plane. I didn't know anything about it. So he brought it, talked about it. I like the lines of it. That evening I went back and I'm on Wikipedia reading about it. I can't do that with science fiction. It just doesn't, there's just nothing there. Now the question is, do I like fantasy or science fiction better? And that's kind of an interesting quandary. Because I like fantasy, but I don't like magic. And I don't like, I'm not a big fan of this fantasy that's almost like Star Trek, where it's just like accepting of all these kind of like weird life forms to coexist together. I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it. I think humans should band together. I don't care what color their skin is. I don't care. But I'm pro-human. I'm absolutely pro-human. When I play fantasy games, I always play. I'm interested in playing humans. I don't want to play some elf or a dwarf or something like that. I am a human supremacist. So, yeah, I was talking about this earlier. You're talking about playing a role playing game. What race do you want to play? Those are real races. The humans, regardless of what this looks like, there's no race. It's all, what's the race? Human race, right? I don't care what color your skin is or what your ethnicity is. We're all in it together. Races are almost kind of like you're not able to breed together properly. So like elves and dwarves and shit like that. So there are some science fiction things that I like, but the problem with science fiction is sometimes there's different technologies in science fiction, and there's some technologies that just aren't believable that we'll ever have. Even though it's fantasy, I think it's just over the top. I don't know. I'm too much of a realist to enjoy it. You know. But just to put it in a perspective, as far as games go, and we're talking about video games, I'm a big fan of the Diablo series. It's fantasy. It's not science fiction. It's fantasy. Are there any science fiction things I like? A couple zombie games, but those are kind of light on the super space travel aspect. But when you're done playing it, there's nothing to excite me about reading about it. But that's just me. I mean, I know I'm probably the exception. Most people that are historical gamers double dip in both. I watched science fiction stuff when I was a kid because I wanted to watch TV on Sunday mornings, and Lost in Space was on. And I didn't really like it, but it's either that or you didn't watch any TV. It's either that or you're watching 700 Club. Well, we certainly don't want to watch that. So we didn't have a million choices. All right, we're going to sketch this out. The center line of the 4 is just a little bit off the center, so I think it's going to go like that. And then it'll go like this. And then the 2, oh shit. Okay, there's a tiny little tail on the 4. And it's kind of a challenge with these vertical pieces of the track, but and these were very crudely painted. I'm going to do my best, and by me doing my best, it'll be just crude enough that you're going to be able to make out the number. But what's the bottom of the 2 look like? And it goes across like this. Okay, I think I have that etched out how I want to. I'm going to switch to the other side and do the same thing. I'd be interested to see whether most people like science fiction or fantasy better. I'm going to guess that most people like science fiction over fantasy. But no, I don't do any of it. But most people probably do both. People that do historicals probably, most people do fantasy and science fiction. But hell, I can't even do DBA and do this. We have to limit ourselves or we wouldn't get anything done. It's damn near in line with this. I take it you do both? Now, with that said, I would probably prefer to do science fiction or fantasy compared to some historical periods. Like, if I could either do fantasy or science fiction or American Civil War, I'm not doing American Civil War. I'm just not doing it. It just doesn't interest me at all. It does not interest me one stinking bit. All right, so we're going to bring this up, kind of keeping it on the center line, and then we can expand it a little bit as we need to. So we're going to go over where these spots are and just make them wider. Okay, there's the 4. There's another 4. And I don't hate the American Civil War because I may be offended by something. I just don't like the period. I don't think an 1860s is a very attractive period for me. Okay, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. It's exactly the same thing that, if you're making a banner that says, welcome, you know, start in the middle and work your way out so so it's centered. Otherwise, you end up having to redo it a bunch of times. As a fan of all three genres, I usually have models for each project on your table. Yeah. Let me give you an example of science fiction that I have played that I actually like, but then it needs to be tweaked. Gaslands. I like Gaslands. Right? It's a fun game. I don't like the backstory that the creator created for Gaslands. I think it's stupid. But you can create whatever story that you wanted to. But I'm just like, I don't like what the backstory is. So when you're talking about historical, I picked this historical period that I do based on the backstory, also known as reality, that really happened that I like. So, like, I don't like the backstory of the American Civil War or the period, so I don't do American Civil War. I like World War II, so I do World War II stuff. So it's kind of the same thing, in that, I'm kind of picking what the storyline is that I want to go along with. I don't know if that makes any sense, but and I don't know how important that is, but the fluff is sometimes not what you would have done with it, you know. Like Battletech, I've played a fair amount of Battletech, and I don't really dislike the storyline, but you know, this is supposedly a lots of time in the future, and I know that technology got lost. What is it, the Comstar or whatever? That the vehicle's technology is the same, but the ranges that these vehicles fire and their accuracy is pitiful compared to what we have now. So like it went down another rabbit hole of reality, and it's a good game. I don't necessarily have a problem with the story. I don't like the whole clan thing, but you know, lots of ACW here in Virginia. Yeah, and I don't have a problem with Rebel Flag. It just I don't generally like to play Americans because I already am. Thank goodness. I don't have a problem with that. I'm just like, it's just not. I'd rather role play something a little bit more interesting. I mean, the only reason I can think of playing American Civil War is so you could talk like a bubba all day long. You could just role play. You could just role play that. You know, that would get old. Okay, we'll do the same thing. We'll keep bringing it up a level until we get to the point where we've got the white where we want it, and we're going to put the red in the center of it. Okay, but we're going to expand these numbers a little bit bigger in that we're going to make them a little wider as we go. Once, because I can tell now they're centered in the space that I want properly. It's just a matter of building them up now. Talk like a Bubba Day. Like I said, I'm gonna try to make these numbers as neat as I can, but in doing so, even on this rough surface, they're gonna look kind of rough, and I think the look is gonna be just fine. That's what happened with the other one that I painted. I had to paint it over Zimmerit, and it's like, man, they look numbers that are painted over Zimmerit look sloppy in real life. That's looking pretty good. You won't really know until you put the red on there. I may actually need to make the white a little bit wider on each one, but we're gonna just go back and forth both sides so you don't get carried away. Keep yourself on a really short leash so things don't get carried away. Have I told you my joke of how you can tell somebody's a Yankee? I actually came up with this one because I'm proud of being from the South, but I'm not Southern. I'm definitely not Southern. I don't have a problem with Southern people. I'm just not one of them. But There's a surefire way of telling if somebody's a Yankee or not. And it's real simple. It should work pretty much everywhere. You want to know how? If you want to know if somebody's a Yankee, call them one. And if they don't mind, they're a Yankee. Surefire works every time. If you call somebody a Yankee and they're not one, they don't want to be called that. Oh man. Can you put the Confederate flag on videos? Like if I'm painting, uh, I'm not going to put the crooked spider flag on videos because it could get you banned by bots. Get you banned by bots. But could I be painting Confederate guys and put a little rebel flag on there and the bots that have a problem with me on YouTube? I don't know. I'll never find out because I don't paint Confederate things. I don't have a problem with it. It's a historical thing. We're not promoting slavery or totalitarianism here. I grew up in the South, so I saw it on mud flaps and stuff everywhere. It's not an alien type of thing. It's not like you see somebody flying a swastika flag from a flagpole or something like that. Everybody's scared to talk about it. I don't know. You could talk about controversial stuff. You just don't need to be on a crusade. I got a. I was on a convention a couple of years ago. I don't know if it was the last convention. No, I think it was the one before that. And I was talking to this guy who we play with frequently. He's like, I don't want to talk about religion and politics. And you know what? Screw him, because we talked about both and we didn't get into an argument. Because all you got to do is you can talk about anything. You can't talk about things with people that are on a crusade. And it doesn't matter what the crusade is. If you're a crusader, you can't talk with people like that unless you're on the same crusade, which I'm not on any. So, so I proved him wrong. You just have to be reasonable, and I guess there's that many people that are just unreasonable about stuff. My daughter is in college, and she says you can't talk to anybody about anything that is outside of the accepted college leftist view, or they don't have the skin to handle it. They just, I mean, I don't even argue. You can't even bring it up. They just they go into a little hidey hole. Like, that's kind of weird. Just hanging out with a bunch of people that just agree with you 100%. You're gonna have a lot of trouble living in the real world. Okay, I think we have those enough to start putting the red in there. I'm going to go ahead and pull Panther 2. What number is it? Is it 215? Whichever one this is. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out and see how thick the red is on it and how thick the white is. I think that's probably equivalent. We might put a little bit more white around it once we put the red in, but we're going to put the red in the center there. But I think that looks pretty good. To put red in the center. It's supposed to look messy like that. You try painting a number over tracks. Go look at the historical pictures. They don't look very good. But you need to be able to make out what number it is. You basically fail if you can't make out what number it is. So, I don't know what the armor on the side of a Panther's turret is, but I don't think it's super poor. It's down here where it's its weak point for sure. I should pull out my rules and see what it has to say about that. Okay, well, I need to let that dry a little bit because I do not want to get red to start smearing all over the place. Next thing you know, we got a pink panther. Okay, so that's 244. If I do a 1, does the 1 have the little tail on it? In this particular script, it does. It has a tiny little one. So I'm going to make this one 241. So while this is drying, let me take a picture of this while I'm thinking about it. I have a better idea of looking at that way. The Zimmern on this tank is beautiful. Here we go. Let's zoom in big time. And if I hadn't already done this one, I'd be like, I don't really know how that looks. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here. Let's mix up some gray. This black dry out. Not really. All right, and same thing, we're going to sketch these numbers on here. We're going to put the 4 in the same place. You can barely make it out. We're going to switch to the other side. Uh-oh. What happened here? Okay, well, thank you very much. Excellent. Haven't gotten one of those in 2 years. Appreciate it. We will put it to good use. I don't know what for, but yeah, like I said, really the best thing is come on here and just interact with me. You know, I'm doing this just to stay on. You know, if I do this and I'm not filming what I'm doing, what ends up happening is I may, I may go, oh, shiny, and then I think about something, and I'm on the internet or so, and I don't get anything done. So this forces me to not cut off, assuming I'm not falling asleep, uh, and be able to finish a project. So just being able to interact is super helpful. And I really hate doing things that are scripted. I really, and it's because I'm lazy. It's when you do stuff that you want to do, if nobody watches it, it's okay because you wanted to do it, right? But if you go and somebody says, "Hey, why don't you make a video about how you paint turret numbers on tanks or something like that?" I'm like, I could do that. And then you spend a lot of time editing and things like that, and you realize nobody actually watches the video for whatever reason, and then you're like bummed out. You get bummed out. That's like, man, I put all this effort into doing this specific video for something that somebody wanted, which I'm fine doing, right? But then you have these expectations that you'll get a certain number of viewers. So I think it's just better just do whatever I want. And if somebody has any specific questions or something like that, yeah, I'm willing to give away all my secrets. I don't have anybody in my family who's going to carry this on. So, I've done that when I did DBA videos. I'm like, I give away all my secrets. I'm not here like, let me hoard onto this stuff so that I can, pull it on a tournament on somebody and pull a fast one on them. I don't want to do that stuff. That's, maybe it's the exception to the rule, but, um, it is a pain to edit videos. It's easy to do it. It just takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. And if I am going to do a video, it'll probably be to show you how this mold stuff works. Even though there's probably other videos out there, this stuff is amazing. This Hindo de Washi, I keep wanting to call it Hindo de Washi Washi. I've been on a few too many cruises where they tell you to washi washi, and that's kind of stuck with me. But this stuff's amazing. This stuff's really amazing. Okay, can we see that too? Yeah, I think we're going to need to enlarge it a little bit that way. Now, we'll flip to the other side, go over here. I heard that third edition of Bolt Action is being released this fall. Is it that popular of a game? Is it that popular of a game? I don't, and I don't want to poo-poo other people to play other rule sets, right? Because I'm not here to convert people into what I play. They just have different objectives. But I also don't like being converted either. I don't have anything nice to say about Bolt Action, but I don't have anything bad to say about it either because I haven't played it. It's just not for me. I'm not a codex mentality type of person. And so I'm not one of those things. I'm going to do World War II and I'm only going to get SS Panzer Grenadiers and that's it. That's all I'm going to be. No, I build stuff for both sides and actually I don't have any SS. And the only reason I would actually have any SS would be the challenge of painting their camouflage. Because their camouflage is cool, but they're rat bastards. And I don't have a problem playing them, but there's people out there. I know it's kind of hard to believe that. What did I say? What did somebody say the other day? They were saving Europe. No. comment too far. But I've never been one of those that I'm only going to paint one side. I'm only going to play, you know. I've never been around people that are like that. I've never been. All I do is Space Marines. I don't do anybody else. I mean, I just didn't grow up doing that kind of stuff. You know. Um, I guess I'm old. I don't know. I'm not. I don't feel old. Yeah. I don't think that. Um, it's very limited to get. I think historical people to play to begin with, and I think that if you release another set of rules to make it better, it's one thing. But if you release it to sell other models, I don't really know what their intention is. Maybe they just realize, hey, there's a limited amount of market, and we got to re-release things and make sure people can't use the old one anymore, so we can generate more revenue, and that's going to turn some people off. First of all, a lot of gamers are nomadic by nature. I know people that are really big into one set of rules, and 2 years later they get rid of all that and they sell it, and they're into this, and 2 years later they're into something else, and it just most people are actually that way. They're not, some fool like me that played something for 18 years. You know, so I didn't even know there was a second edition of Bolt Action. That tells you how much I know about it. But I tend to like rules that when you play the game, you want to learn more about the period. Something will happen in the rules, and you'll be like, oh, I want to read more about such and such. You'll have troops that are armed with I don't know, an FG-42, right? And then you want to read more about how the FG-42 was developed and what it was good at and what it wasn't, or, that's gaming and learning have always gone hand in hand for me. It's like gaming and reading. I've always liked to read. I just didn't like to read the stuff that they assigned me in school. Like, I don't want to read Grapes of Wrath. You know, let's read about real stuff. There's always, that's what I've always said is, they even if you're like a kid that's into sports, I wasn't one of them, but kids that are super into sports, go read like biography of Hank Aaron, or maybe one of your stars that you follow or something like that. There's always cool stuff to learn about. You know, and reading is awesome because um, you can't help but learn how to spell by just reading a lot. I mean, unless you're reading a bunch of books that are edited properly, with spelling errors. But it's just all around good. I just don't do more reading of it. I don't do like a lot of like formal reading, like I'm going through this book, because it relaxes me too much and it puts me to sleep. And it doesn't put me to sleep in that it's boring. It's just relaxing, you know. So rules have different level of popularity through the country. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, the guys here locally, they've been playing 15 millimeter Flames of War, and they've been playing what's the other one? Rapid Fire. And the other day, I'm like, I love Flames of War's website. I really do. There is some juicy things that you read in there that I think are really accurate as far as historical information. It's presented in a very clear way. There's a lot of stuff there on, like, British armored units that were in Italy in 1944. And, it has all the logos of all the stuff. And it's a really good starting point for a lot of stuff, regardless of whether or not you're interested in playing their rule set. They did a phenomenal job with it. Um, and but the game just is flat. It just falls flat for me. It's not for me. I'm not going to spend this kind of detail, and then the front of the tank is anything this way, and anything this way is a flank. I'm like, what? It's not for me. Maybe it's good for getting people into the hobby, or maybe people that would normally be in historical can grasp on that. But I don't think that playing more complicated rule sets is a turnoff. I think it's a turnoff if nobody plays a set of rules. How would you pick it up? You know, like why would you start playing DBA if you saw the book there, and nobody walked you through, or you watched a video, or people in your game group played it. You know, I think that word of mouth and exposure to other people in your local club is really kind of what drives that catalyst. And then, you know, to kind of get your feet wet. For instance, for me, it's always been important for me to play a game first. So I kind of understand the flow of the game, and then now once I have that, I can kind of flesh that out. That's something that's always been important for me. Not just picking up a rule set out of nowhere and start reading it. I think every game group has that one guy or several guys that all they do is buy rule sets, and they don't play any of them, but they just buy rule sets and just kind of see, and that's kind of what they're, you know. But you know, different strokes for different folks. A lot of folks play and don't paint anything. I know a few of those. They're good people, but they just don't, you know. It's hard for them to get excited about, you know, shopping for things because, you know, they're not painted. But bolt action, since it's basically, you could play it on other scales, but it's a 28 millimeter game. I don't have a love for 28 millimeter. I didn't grow up playing any games that used 28 millimeters. So it's not like I need to transition from Games Workshop games that use 28 millimeter or heroic 28 millimeter and go and kind of use that as a stepping block. It's just something that it's moving me in the opposite direction. I understand I'm probably the exception to the rule, but it doesn't necessarily work for me. The releasing new editions of a game and having to throw everything away that you've created is also does not work for me. I spend way too much effort creating these things for it to be like, oh, the new rules don't have those kind of trucks. You can't use them anymore. And I'm not a tournament gamer. The fact that I played a tournament game for the last 18 years, well, actually, technically, the last year and a half doesn't count, but for 18 years, is just because I wanted to play with my own toys that I created, not because I was like uber competitive. I've always been competitive. You're trying to win, but I've never played a tournament game before, you know? You see a lot of Grey Armies, the Warhammer games. You mean unpainted? Yeah, their miniatures are way too expensive to not paint them, you know? And I think their miniatures are cool. Don't get me wrong, they're sculpted well. I remember when I first saw Citadel figures in the hobby store in the late 80s. And I thought it was really cool because at that point you had either Ral Partha or you had Grenadier, and their stands sucked compared to the Games Workshop. Well, they weren't even called Games Workshop back then. They may have, but they were always known as Citadel, right? Citadel color, right? It's right there on the front. And it might be hidden somewhere. It didn't even say Games Workshop on here. Doesn't even say it. It was Citadel. It took me a long time to not call it Citadel. Just like models, I grew up with them being U.S. importer, Games Workshop. So for me, it was always Citadel. When those Citadel figures came out, you know, they would inside that little slot, it would tell you what it was. You know, dwarf, old dwarf. You know, wolf. You know, it gave you like some extra characterness to it. It was just really cool. They were ahead of their time. They were the trendy thing. but I don't like plastic figures. I prefer plastic vehicles. I don't like plastic figures if the figures are too brittle, because then they can break and stuff. All right, we need to go one more level of whiteness on here to pop it up a little bit more. Unpainted Games Workshop models are beautiful, but the cost. Yeah, well, if you paint everything, I'll tell you my wife's rule, and I really stick to this rule too, for the most part. I can buy anything I want, but I got to paint it. So if you just buy things as you use them up, if you're not a hoarder, what do these things cost? They're a pack of two, and they're like $40 for two. By the time I've painted these two vehicles, I've put so much time into it, I've gotten my money's worth out of it. So as long as I'm not buying 5, 6, 7 packs of them, not building any of them, not doing anything with them, storing them up, that's a waste of money. But actually, like, finishing them, it's like building a puzzle. It's done, You got enjoyment out of it. I don't know, that's just the way I look at it. And I have not been this disciplined my whole life. And when I was doing 1/35th scale models, I'd build like an 8-wheel German armored car, for instance. I'll use that one as an example. A 231 8-rad, right? From Tamiya. Beautiful model. Cool armored car. I'd get into some hiccup where I had to make a decision about, was I going to make it for Russia? Was I going to make it for North Africa? And I would get into this analysis paralysis, and I basically would stop, punt, and buy another 1/35th scale modeler. So when I got out of my 1/35th scale, I had 4 models completed and probably 20 that were half built. They weren't even not started. They were started and got to a point where I had to make a decision, and I didn't make it because I was, analysis paralysis. Mr. Marcus, welcome. Could finally caught, yeah. I thought maybe I'd upset you or something like that. I know real life got in the way. Yeah, you got some pretty thick skin. I don't say that kind of controversial stuff on here for anybody to be upset. These are the Lair Panthers. With the green stuff molded track. I got big plans for these mold stuffs in the future. There's so much stuff I plan on doing with this. I just need to source some stuff out. I want to get some M10 tank destroyers, about 5 of them. And I'm going to buy, there's 2 companies, it's really weird, there's 2 companies that make aftermarket stuff that goes on top of them. One of them is called Black Dog, the other one's called Red Dog. Interesting. But they each make different stuff to go on there. I plan on, when I get that, buy one set of each and just recast other stuff. No, I'm not going to sell them. That's dishonorable. But, use the extra pieces to... I think like say you've got like some baggage or something like that, like a sandbag. Put it in the mold, right? You got a mold of it. Pull it out, and before it's completely dry, mess with it. Like change that sandbag a little bit so you can make all these little different variations on it. I'm thinking in theory it makes sense. Now, here's 241, which is the... See, the question is, do they have a similar size numbers? I think so. I think it looks pretty good. Well, we won't really know until we're completely done with it. How does the painting over the track look? Okay, I'll show you. Now we're going to put red in the center. So, well, here's 244. And if you look at pictures of it in real life, it looks worse than this. It looks super sloppy. Um, Let me show you the finished one zoomed in. Because we know it doesn't look worth a crap on the video, unfortunately. This is a Britannia Panther, which has really crappy looking Zimmerit compared to this one. Okay, so we're going to put 241 aside. 244 is nice and cured now. We're going to pull the red out. Is this the red I want to use, or is this the other one? They're damn near the same thing. I'm going to do the vermilion one. It's a little warmer. But all this track was extra track I made with green stuff. And the green stuff, in my opinion, works a lot better than Milliput White. Milliput White is just too chalky for me. This green stuff is amazing. You pull it out of the mold, like here's one, okay? Here's some extra track. It's almost rubbery. Like it gives a little bit. It's like forgiving and like it doesn't crack and break, and you know, we got big plans for this stuff. We got big plans for going forward. But I don't want to get bogged down in the minutia of like, let's make extra little sandbags for this Packwagon. And you know, the next thing you know, I'm only doing a vehicle every 6 months. You know, that's not the direction I want to go into. You know, I can always come back and add different details to it. As a matter of fact, this Panther does not have the black lining I've been doing lately. It's real simple. I just come back and then just do a little bit of black line. It's super relaxing because it makes the details pop even more at 2 and 3 feet away. Because I need a style that, with my nearsightedness, looks really good like this up close. And then also at 3 feet away, you can tell the difference of the details on it. So I don't know if it's a function of me being nearsighted that I've kind of gravitated towards something that does both of those things. But yeah, I don't want it to look crappy up close. You know, I know there's a painter, I can't remember what they are, right? They used to sell things on eBay, and they used to sell like DBA armies, and they were painted really well until you look at them really close and you're like, it looks like they just dry brushed everything. But they look good 3 feet away. But the problem is if I'm painting with my contacts out, they're going to look like crap to me, you know? So I'm like, I could do better than that, you know? I can do better, so do better. Just do as good as you can, you know? You've been working a first for me in World War II, some Japanese. Japanese would be fun to play because you could just be suicidal and you could make all kinds of guttural noises when you play, you know. Some people would call that offensive. No, it's not. If I didn't like Japanese, I wouldn't swear by buying only Japanese vehicles. I love Japanese stuff, you know? I'm not buying a domestic vehicle. Are you out of your mind? I've never driven a domestic vehicle, actually. We're going to start with a little bit of black so we have some room to amp it up for contrast. Yeah, but I'm old school. I'm none of this, oh, you can't talk like you're a different nationality than you were born as. I'm like, get a life, man. Get a life. All right, I'm going to go really thin in the middle. And if I got to go bigger, then I guess I got to expand the white spacing in between it. But this is a really rough surface. A lot rougher than just going painting over the Zimmerit. Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to learning more about the Pacific War. It's not my area of expertise because I haven't gamed it. I don't. I think I played one land combat game in the Pacific ever, and it was a. I want to say it was in New Guinea, and we played Japanese against some Australians with Matildas. And talk about if you think Matildas are queen of the battlefield in the desert, man, in the freaking jungle, as long as they can stay on ground, they can support their weight, and they're not trying to cut themselves through something. They're basically unstoppable. There's nothing the Japanese have that can penetrate a Matilda. The only difference is that the Japanese could do a three-legged race and outrun a Matilda. They're really really slow and definitely not suited for any kind of undergrowth. So I'm gonna go grab a soda. I'll be right back. Three-legged race Japanese. Okay. Yeah, there's a. I was looking at some 3D printed stuff, and there's some 3D printed Pacific like buildings. Well, there's one guy that's got like a bunch of Burma stuff, like a Burma hotel. Looks really really cool. Man, talk about freaking trees. Got to do a lot of trees, one step at a time. One step at a time. We'll get there. We'll get there or we won't. We'll get there or we won't. I'm not gonna get stressed out about it, but I have. I gotta try my theory on my tree theory that I think is gonna work, but I gotta try it in Europe first before we do anything other than that. But I've just had a lot of stress at work in the last year. So this is really helping me not going to the crazy farm. So I've just kind of been working on this stuff instead of exploring the possibilities of running a game or something like that, because that's just more responsibility, and I've honestly got plenty of it at work. So
Same here. He also painted a squad of Chindits and Indians. Lots of interesting skirmish ideas brewing as I'm learning more history.
Marco Mavro, welcome. What's up, my Greekness? I saw that you posted a comment on the Athens and Spartan thing. DBA game. I think that was the one that I think the Spartans won that one, which is strange because that matchup between Sparta and Athens, I say probably goes a third of the time the Spartans win and the Athenians win 2/3 of the time, just because they got more different tools, they got more troop, they got more different troop varieties. But I can't say that I miss doing ancients at all. I just know that I don't have the energy to do that and this. Okay, so that's 244. Before I go and jump to the other one, I'm going to switch to the other side. We're going to bring that red up to this level, and we'll see if that takes us where we need to be. If that gets us where we need to be. So speaking of Greek stuff, there's a restaurant here in town that is it's excellent, and it's like half Greek, half Italian. I found out that the owners are actually Greek, but they have pizza as well, and they got a really good gyro. And what they really got is this freaking beer that is spectacular. It is just standard tasting beer. It's called Mythos, and it's from Greek. It's from Greek. It's from Greece, and it's incredible. It is absolutely incredible. Love going there. I had bad rolls. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. When I was in junior high, which is when they did the whole Peloponnesian War thing, I was always like, "Go Sparta," and I'm like, "Nah, screw those guys. They're a cult of different things." So I like the Athenians. I don't like who's that guy who's the asshole? Alcibiades. Screw that guy. What was that? What's that Assassin's Creed? That's Odyssey that takes place in Greece. It's beautiful. I mean, if I was, it's inspirational for like painting buildings and stuff like that. If you're gonna do anything like that, I don't know if it's historically accurate, but it's definitely thought provoking and motivating. But you come across Alcibiades, and I'm like, I didn't do any of his missions. I'm like, I set him up basically to like, you could like, help him or hurt him, and I'm like, I'm not helping that guy. I remember that guy. I remember reading about the Peloponnesian War. There's nothing much worse than you love Mythos. Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. That's amazing. That's really amazing stuff. And it's just standard lager. It's not super hoppy. It's not. It's just that's what beer should taste like. You know? Yeah, everybody in my family likes that stuff. Yeah, and it's really just German beer that they brewed there because all beer is kind of German, anyways. So anyhow, um, yeah, that's a. I love that restaurant. It's just a little. It's not a chain or anything, so they got a good euro. It's not too gamey. Your grandfather was named Alcibiades. Oh, the poor guy. Oh, the poor guy. I'm sure he was a better guy than Alcibiades. There's nothing worse than a turncoat. You can't be trusted. How do you trust somebody who's a liar? You know? I'd rather be somebody that's evil than a liar. What'd I do with my Coke? Get it? Oh. Your grandfather's name, Alcibiades. My condolences. Haven't painted in a while. I haven't gamed with a local group in a while, and I don't. You know, I mean, if Mitch didn't have anybody to play with on a weekly basis, I would go. You know, but he does. So I'm like, I don't feel guilty. You know, and it's got nothing to do with the people. It's just that I just don't have time for everything. You know, I don't have time for everything. You want to see how I pronounce that? I'm probably do. The problem is that Greek probably emphasizes letter syllables that don't come naturally to me. Timeo Danaos et dona ferentes. I fear the Greeks, even when they bring gifts. Alcibiades' thing is unfortunately very Greek. See all of Byzantine history for reference. You miss Mitch. You just miss his feet. Oh, man. Well, you know who my favorite Byzantine emperor is. The one who has my middle name. See what I did there? He has my middle name. Manuel Komnenos. And he was an ass kicker. That always helps. And he didn't get assassinated, right? That's always good. That's an unusual thing, but I don't think he got assassinated. Yeah, he was a physical guy, like not like Bohemond, but like that. Like he went out. He wasn't like he sat back in the back and read books and had perfume on and shit like that. I mean, he got in there and like hit people with like metal things. You know, Basil the second. That's the Bulgar Slayer. Manuel. Yep. Yeah. My Byzantines are beautiful. I love them. I'm not getting rid of any of my figures, and I'll probably play that. I'll probably play at some point in the future with those figures. I'm just not going to play DVA. I'm going to play something that's got a little bit more panache and flavor and is less abstract. So it doesn't have to do like I don't care about the medieval and ancient period. It's got nothing to do with that. It's just that this game's so freaking abstract, and I can't solve all these problems that keep coming up. You know. Okay, let's flip to this side, and we'll do the 244 on this side. Well, I won't be doing any Greek World War II figures. Probably don't make any, but you could do like partisan stuff in there. Guess that'd be cool. But can't be in everything. Can't be into everything. The movie, the war movie that I watched the most as a kid, is a Greek one. It's Guns and Navarone. I watched that one more than anything else. It was on all the time, and who doesn't like big guns? All right, we're gonna have to brighten those. We're gonna have to brighten those up and expand the white around the red. Before I go any further, let's go ahead and do that, and just make sure that we are on the right track. And I think I'm going to use damn near pure white for that. I should name paint colors. What color are you using? Damn near pure white. What? Yeah, if you read about history, sometimes you'll read about it. You can't help but take in sides. You'll read about some conflict, and there's one side that you like better than the other. In reality, everybody was asshole. But there's just some things that just aren't cool, and you're like, man, I just can't get behind those guys because they're just dickheads. I mean, maybe it's just me, but I always kind of I put things into who's better than the other one, or who you can relate to more than the other one. Anybody if the Mongols are involved, anybody but the Mongols. I can't get into the Mongols because the Mongols, you can say whatever you want. Oh, they had a great military system. They destroyed shit. They destroyed stuff just for the sake of destroying things, and I just can't get behind that. I just can't. I just can't connect with that sort of thing. I can't get behind the Venetians. The Venetians suck. They'd sell their mother for a coin. Like, not cool, man. There's some things you can't buy. You know? Not cool. Belisarius got done dirty. He should have revolted. But he was just too good a guy. I don't like Justinian. He's a dick. He didn't appreciate him. Sorry if you're a Justinian fan, but Belisarius got done dirty. By the emperor and his own wife. He's just too good a guy. That's not how you reward loyalty, doing shit like that. And we're going to have to clean this up with red, but we're going to need to have a little border in the white all the way around this for it to look right, for it to pop. And this is just really rocky compared to just painting it over the Zimmerit. Actually, the Zimmerit was kind of cool because you could build the numbers how much length you wanted based on how many squares there were in. It was kind of like drawing something on graph paper, almost. It was just bumpy. So it just takes a little bit of effort, attention to detail. I just went ahead before I even got started. I'm taking my contacts out. We're gonna go plus 6.0. We need that today. Yeah, this is gonna look good. But I needed to do. You got to do it in steps so you don't end up with these numbers that are all like, oh, like the melted. I think this is exactly what I did with the other number on the Zimmer, but this is more difficult because we got things that really pop out more than the other one, but it's turning out well. It just takes some attention to detail, and we will get there. Not necessarily doing this, but doing handwriting on vehicles is one of my favorite thing to do. One of my favorite thing to do. Heraldry, any kind of stuff like that, where you can kind of put your own personality and spin on it. is just something that I think is a lot of fun. It's not something you want to do in a hurry. And it may seem to you that this is really stressful, but it's not. You just have to take it one stroke at a time. It's super forgiving. If I were to screw up, I just come in with the other color and straighten it out. I keep hiding this Coke from myself. It's pretty much clear of paint. Let's make sure we got everything moving smoothly. All paintbrushes have a lifespan on how long they're going to last, how long their point is going to be excellent once you get one with an excellent point. So I don't like using this for anything other than really detailed work, because if I use it for something it doesn't need to be used for, its usefulness is going to be wasted on something that another paintbrush could do. And it's not an expensive paintbrush. It's what is this? Fine Touch from, I think, Hobby Lobby makes them. But it is a liner. I definitely prefer liners to rounds for this type of work. Should we go white all the way around all this, and then we'll come back with red. That one's good. That one's good. That one's good. As got to go around the corner. That I think we're good there. Let's add the pure red, which of course dried out. So let's come back with this. I don't know that I can do both numbers completely today, but we'll try to finish that other side as well. All right, so the center there, center there, center there. Now, I'm going to take a picture of this and show you guys. Because it's not even worth, and we're going to weather a little bit over it to tie it in. And let's just see. Yeah, the problem is that is a spoke that comes up. So it looks kind of, man, we could zoom in real close on that. This four here, this point, the problem is that is a prong that sticks out. I could probably touch some of that up so you don't see it from one of the angles. But let me put my glasses on so I can see. Yeah, that looks pretty equivalent to them, and it looks better than the real photos of them. We're probably going to put, I don't know if we're going to put 244 here on the back just on the Zimmer, because it'll end up looking a lot better than the one over the tracks, but the ones over the tracks look really rough. And I'd hand paint these anyways. If I didn't have the tracks on the side of the turrets, I'd hand paint them. Because getting a decal to conform to that, that's just a nightmare. That's just a nightmare. And we're going to hand paint the Balkan Kreutzes as well, which I may not put them all the way down here. I really don't like them down here. They're just so diminutive that it just looks wrong. You know, there's some things that you just encounter that, even though you're doing them correctly, just seem like they shouldn't have been done that way. It just seems incorrect. Like if you end up seeing any like snow camouflage, the Germans were so hurting for snow camouflage of any kind in a winter of 41, they ended up using like chalk. So you see these Panzer IVs, they took like chalk and they rubbed, you know, just trying to get some color on there other than dark gray. It looks terrible. It looks like if you modeled that, it looked like you were a fool, you know, but even though it's done correctly, it looks like it's wrong. So you just have to decide how you're going to go about stuff like that, whether you're going to fool with things or, you know, sometimes you opt to not do camouflage patterns that you have to explain every time you show it to you. It's like, well, that doesn't look very good. Well, so that's how it's supposed to look like. Well, you know, it's, so I don't want to get in a situation where I have to explain stuff like that to everybody all the time. So I would just avoid doing those paint schemes that look uber shoddy. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll come back with a red in the center and clean that up. It's not difficult. It just takes some time. If they didn't have the prongs on the tracks that stick out, it would be a lot easier. It's navigating that makes it a bit of a challenge. But honestly, it's that bit of a challenge that decided me to try it in the first place. This takes a while, but if you do it right, you don't have to do it again. And then we'll come in with the red. Yeah, Mythos is great. And they have a draft there too. It's right? Or, I don't know. And I just can't call it Mythos. Okay, I think that is where we're going to leave off. We got tank 244 completely labeled. I don't have another hour in me to finish 241, and that's probably what it'll take. And we haven't blacklined this thing yet, so it's going to And it's going to look even better. It's going to look even better. But this is actually a Panther G. These two, both of these are A's. So, yeah. So anyhow, this is, like I said, it's a slow train, but I think it's going to look pretty good. And you look at those, and it's like, yep, that's the Panther layers, the Panzer layer Panthers. Some different units had different unique things that they did. The 116th Panzer Division liked to put these extra road wheels and put them on the side of the turret. It was just their thing. Yeah, so this is where we'll pick up next time, and we're going to do all the numbers before, and then the next step after that is we're going to do the black lining on all the fine intricate details that we have here with the rear engine deck and so forth. But this is where we're going to leave off for tonight. You guys have a good evening. Appreciate you guys coming by, and we'll see you guys on the next one. See ya. Bye-bye.